Hey there, how are you doing? Happy Wednesday to you. I am sending you greetings from Iceland. Way at the top of the map, here I am in the beautiful home of one of my dear friends and my colleagues, Solveig Þórarinsdóttir. And while she's away making magic, I just wanted to connect with you very briefly to say hello and to touch base on a few things that have come up this summer. This is one of those times of year when many of us try to let go of control and enjoy a summer vacation. And yet, some of us have been really challenged with this challenge of things not going to plan. And I got a phone call from someone who was like in tears, in frustration, because her summer plans kind of went awry, which I totally get, right? I totally know how that feels. I've been there. I've really been there many, many a time. Hello, Charlotte. It's good to see you here. So, and Karen, wonderful to have you tuned in as well, two of our authors from our upcoming book, which I can't wait to tell you about. So I don't know if you have also had challenges in your life or in your world when you make a plan. And it might have been a plan you've been working on for months or even years. And then all of a sudden, everything just seems to get blocked or shocked or completely turned upside down. Well, if that is you, then stick around because I have hopefully some helpful tips to help bring you back to a state of peace and calm and acceptance. And if you know anyone else who gets a little bit high-strung, a little perfectionistic, a little tense when they're making plans and things don't go according to that lovely plan, then please share this video with them. I would love it if you would. So one of the things that, for me personally, that came up around this issue was I was just looking over an interview that I did with this beautiful veterinarian from Porto, Portugal. Her name is Joana Soares, and she was in our book, Time to Rise. And when she was just, going out of university, she thought she was going to go and become a dentist. And kind of, how it is when you're young and you start thinking that this is how you're going to make your life. Well, that's what she planned on, but her grades didn't allow her to get into the dentistry program. So you can imagine how devastating that could be, especially if, you've started to tell your friends and you've told your family. I mean, of course, choosing a career path is a really big plan, and I know I started talking about summer plans, but the whole concept I want to share with you today is about adaptability. Because what you'll learn from Joana, if you haven't seen her book, her story in the book Time to Rise, be sure to check it out. And we also have an interview that I did with Joana that you might want to check out. But what she ended up finding is her true love and her true passion, which is working with animals, something that I know you, Charlotte, you know a lot about, one of our animal healers. And eventually, by really just accepting that, okay, life kind of threw her a curveball, she knew that she always loved working with animals, especially since she manifested her first animal when she was a young child. For those of you into magic and manifestation, she really wanted to have a dog. I mean, how many of us as children wanted to have a new pet? And it was her relationship with her dog named Lucky that you'll read about in Time to Rise. It really impacted her emotional growth as a young person, and then she realized that that was her career path. And so it's like one of those things when we set out on a path, and we might even believe that it's been divinely inspired. Like we get a download and we're like, yes, the Lord has spoken. This is my path in life. And then something goes awry. And you start to question and doubt yourself. Like I have been there where I'm like, did I get it wrong? I thought I had this direct connection. Did I miss something? Did I screw up? Was it really not for me? Or am I just supposed to wait? So I'd love to hear from some of you if you have had this happen in your life. What's up, Vaughn? I see that you're saying here that you were going to play in the NBA, that's basketball in America, and then you met your wife freshman year in college. You'd never been in love before, and that was the end of your NBA journey. Oh, really? You gonna put that all on Sarah? Is that how it really went down? Well, I know that you're happy. I love seeing that you guys are celebrating your bliss for all these years, so I'm sure you're just as happy with the choice that you made. And Charlotte, I'm so glad that you're loving this. And Jacqueline, thank you for being here. And you as well, Fleming, good to have you here. So how many of you have had these sort of experiences where life didn't go according to your plan, but it worked out okay? This is something that I really am passionate about, because I used to be so attached to my plans going perfectly according to how I laid them out. And I noticed that that's what caused me a lot of frustration, a lot of mental anguish, and a whole lot of self-judgment. I could get into all the reasons why I was bad, wrong, unlovable, you name it. It would send me down this path of just feeling like I was worthless and useless and lame. So I don't know if that's the same for you, but one of the things that has impressed me in my career is that when we share our stories of how we've, made mistakes in life, we realize that all of the judgment and sometimes the shame that we hold inside for not making those plans come true is totally useless. And in my life, hello Camilla, good to see you from Denmark, and Katya. But in my world, the shame that I was feeling over my plans not going the way I said they would, because when I was young, I would just tell everything, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to be this and do this. And then I would feel like such a loser if things didn't work out right. And it eventually caused me to stop sharing my plans. And I know many of you already know this, that I wouldn't share these big visions and these big dreams and these plans. But something that came up to me, and I've shared this in an interview I recently did with Geneviève Pépin she's also in Time to Rise, from Natola Coaching. And the thing that I shared was, I recognize that sometimes I get downloads or visions about things that I'm going to do in life long before I'm actually going to do it. But sometimes I feel like the visions that I get, it's almost like I see everything and they're almost like stacked on top of each other. And it's like I get the download, but it's not meant to be implemented right now. I'm only able to recognize this now because I look over at my journals and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got that download, and thank goodness I've been clever enough to write down the stuff that I get out of meditation and whatnot. And I realize now that sometimes I think I was getting messages just to prepare me for the next part of the journey, and not necessarily to make me lock in and start working on things right then and there, because that's what used to bother me. I would start to work on things expecting well, I got this vision, this is supposed to happen right now, right? And then if it didn't, or things didn't go to plan, then I would judge myself, and I would oftentimes put those plans completely aside. And so what's been interesting is, after meeting the lovely Charlotte, who you will learn about in our new book about magic and miracles, Charlotte explains, and I'm going to give you a little preview of the book cover. This isn't the final cover, but I think it's really beautiful, so I wanted to share, especially since I'm wearing purple today. But one of the things that Charlotte was talking about is knowing for many years that she and her husband had these visions. I'm not going to give it away. Don't worry, Charlotte. I know you're working on your story. The book, by the way, comes out in November of this year, so you'll be able to get your own copy. But some of the things that were impressed upon Charlotte and her husband were years in the making. And I think that's really the key for us, is recognizing that the plans or the visions that we get, sometimes they're not meant for us to take immediate action on. But it's as if they're seeds planted in that fertile ground of our heart and our mind, and they're meant to inspire our soul as we go down the path. And because we let them come in, it's almost like when other things come up in life, you start to recognize certain signs and opportunities that then you can actually take advantage of. Does that make sense? And so I just wanted to bring up this concept about being adaptable, being willing to just recognize that you don't have to judge your earthly self just because you created a plan and it doesn't come out perfect the first time around, or even maybe the 5th time around, right? Hello, Karen. I'm so glad that you love the book. Karen Joy is also one of our authors from Time to Rise, and her whole life is a miracle. Karen, you could have been all over this book as well. But that's the thing, is that I feel like we can get down on ourselves and start to feel like I'm a loser, I'm wrong, I'm bad. What have I done? Is the world against me? Is the universe against me? Did I just completely get this wrong? I thought I heard from God. And sometimes I feel like it's just a matter of hold on and keep the faith. And so the other piece of this is about being adaptable. And again, I'm going to give just a little quick shout out to some of these people. Thank you, Katya, for saying that makes good sense. I'm glad to know that it does. For those of you who are curious, I'm going to tell you some of the other people who are going to be in this Magic and Miracles book. We have Miriam Thiel, Ninette Summer, Joyce Razarali, Gila Nehemia, Kimberly Wright, Diane Haworth, Elspeth Kerr, Stefan Conradi, Charlotte, as I just mentioned, Marlon Hedlund, Trude Diebendal, Lina Heiselberg-Wang, Cristiana Duarte, Durante, no, she's going to be in another project, sorry. Caroline, I was just about to say your name, and there you pop up. Caroline is also in this book, and Karen Eek, Margareta Tossi, Helena Goldstein, and Gita Vinter-Graugard. So I can't wait for you guys to tune in for the book Magic and Miracles. But here's the thing about the adaptability. In each of these authors, as you kind of read through these stories, and I mean, it's a book about magic and miracles. You are going to come away recognizing that there is so much more to our lives than what our 5 senses can tune into. There's so much more to our lives than what we see in this 3D world. We have such incredible potential for amazing, miraculous things, including overcoming illness and getting out of debt. And I mean, there's so much. And if we are willing to, as you say, Katya, keep the faith and listen within, then what I'm going to say to you is it opens up the possibility for adaptability. Now, I created a very short book on the top 10 traits of highly resilient people. And one of those traits is adaptability. And the first time I was introduced to this, it was kind of a weird story. I was, as many of you know, dealing with depression. I was working in the Washington, D.C. area in America, and had so much going on with my big TV career at Discovery Channel and my wellness center, and I was just dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression. And again, I was in my head recognizing like, things aren't going exactly to plan. I'm doing everything I can, but yet I don't feel good. I'm not happy, all of that stuff. And I ended up meeting a therapist who I saw for many, many sessions. I tried everything. I mean, y'all know. Antidepressants, everything. But I met this therapist, and he was working with a lot of the big movers and shakers in Washington, D.C. So he was used to the corporate types and the, high achievers. And the one thing that he said to me that really stuck with me, which I mentioned in one of my TED Talks, is he said, you know what, Andrea? You just need to get FAT. F-A-T. Flexible, adaptable, and tolerant. And as we started to unpack that, flexibility, adaptability, and tolerance, these are 3 of the top 10 traits of highly resilient people. And what does it mean to be resilient? It means the wind might blow you around, the storms of life might be raging, you might get bent and knocked down, but you get back up. You are rooted and grounded in Mother Earth. You are flexible enough that whatever knocks you around, it doesn't break you. And that's what really started me on this path towards resilience. And when I looked at what I was working with people who had addiction and people who had anger issues at my wellness center, I realized that was one of the keys, adaptability. Like, we oftentimes, really high achievers or visionary types, we get locked on thinking that our vision has to come out exactly as I saw it, exactly as I planned it. And yet, if we are truly trying to live in alignment with the divine or become one with the Tao, we have to recognize that even if we had a perfect sort of vision, there's still all these other people and places and circumstances that got to line up, and they have free will and we have free will and things change. And so we have got to be adaptable, which says, yes, you still hold on to your vision and you still stay committed to your path, but you may have to adapt. And that means accepting that as things change in your circumstance, you might have wanted to go left and now you got to go a little to the right. You may have wanted to go fast and now you've got to slow down. You may have wanted to go straight up and now you've got to kind of zig and zag. And that adaptability is what's going to allow you to get back up when things knock you down. And so I want you to just recommend, to recognize that you have that power. Even though I say these are the top 10 traits of highly resilient people, we know that resilience is like any other resource that we humans have the capacity to develop. It's like a muscle. And the more that you use any of these resilient traits, the more it grows. And that gives you the ability to deal with stress, to deal with breakdowns, to prevent burnout, which is a big topic around here these days. So I hope that this is making sense to you. Let me know. And thank you, Robert. I'm glad that this is making sense to you as well. And Robert says, I think as I grow a little older and wiser, we understand that all of the things that didn't go the way that we thought they should really were a part of a larger learning process to help us along life's journey and to lead us to our purpose. I completely agree. That is, that's exactly what my experience has tended to bear out over time. So Fleming says, so how do we react? You had 30 students and not all of them were cooperating, doing the opposite of all the instructions at a team building day. And they were destroying the equipment. And the only thing bringing order was the sports trainer, threatening and controlling the students with a horsewhip and whipping them when necessary. Everything that's against what you believe. Oh my gosh, that must have been hard to watch, Fleming. And it was totally impossible to create trust and love in that environment. And so what to do today? To go deep in attitude and tell them that I believe in them. To give hugs verbally and just to be authentic and full of love. Oh, I love that, Fleming. Oh my goodness. My heart is with you because I know how I've been around situations like that where it's like, oh my goodness. I wonder. It was definitely being in France, the first time that I went with my daughter's school. This is years ago when we, I think the second or third year we were living in France. I was one of the chaperones on an event for Sienna's school. And we were walking to this museum, and the kids were walking across the street, and there was this little boy kind of jumping around, acting a little silly, being crazy, as sometimes young children do. And the teacher just berated him, really said a name that was not very kind. I mean, these were little guys. They were only in like first or second grade. And I was just shocked. I was like, how is it that teachers speak to tiny children in that way? It like totally messed with my heart. I remember going home and talking to Sienna about it, and she was like, yeah, I mean, they do that all the time, which is a whole nother conversation and is a whole reason why my child is no longer in the French school system. Not that all schools are bad, I'm not saying that, but there's definitely a way of speaking to children and trying to discipline through fear and through judgment that does not vibe with me. But anyway, so that's just what I wanted to share with you guys today. I wanted to share this insight that even as it's summer and you may have been planning all year for your big vacay with the family, things are still likely to go awry. Airplane problems, train problems, buses, the weather. You know, I'm actually looking outside. I'm looking at the sea here from beautiful Solvay's home, and you know, I got this message from her saying, I'm so sorry about the weather. It's been the rainiest summer in Iceland in over 100-something years. And today I'm actually seeing little peaks of blue sky amongst the clouds. It's just, I'm totally just going with the flow. And so anyway, so that is definitely what I wanted to share with you, is this idea about being open. And the reason I like to sort of bring focus to each of these resilience traits, besides being a positive psychology nerd, I've been baked in the science of positive psychology for, the last 14 years. It's become something that I don't, as much as people used to talk about happiness with the whole positive psychology movement, what I tend to focus on with my clients is resilience. Yes, of course, I want you to be happy, but if you're already making sure that your life is lining up with your purpose, as you mentioned, Robert, then you're going to find that you're going to start restructuring your life to bring you more happiness. And I would rather you focus actually on contentment or fulfillment. But one of the things that you'll notice when we start talking about the other book, okay, where am I pointing? Here. This other book that we're publishing as of November is Life After Trauma. And these authors as well have really shown that we can be very, very vague and nebulous about what it takes to live a vibrant and full life. But if we can get specific, it's not like I'm giving you rules to follow, but I think what the benefit of having the scientific approach to psychology and the science of resilience is when you know what is possible within the human psyche, then we stop thinking of these things as being only for magical people. We start to recognize that even normal humans like you and me have the potential to really overcome the biggest obstacles in life and to thrive. And so I wanted to just give a shout out to some of the beautiful authors who are contributing to this book, Life After Trauma, where we will be breaking the silence to inspire resilience. Helena Phillipson, David Morris, Joyce Razarali is also contributing to this one. We have Gazit Gaia, and I believe, did I just say that Gila Nehemia was in the other book? She's actually in this book, Life After Trauma. Marika Stasser, Stefan Conradi, Stina, who's also contributing art, Stina Mo Engelsrud. She is contributing art to the back cover of this book. Beautiful Caroline Hake, who's also here today. Abby Pearsall from America. Anna Frosten as well from Sweden. So this is going to be a wonderful book that explores all different types of trauma, because we humans are basically, you're almost not going to get through life without some form of trauma. Now, I'm not just talking about outright abuse. I'm talking about even the little traumas that everyone kind of goes through, like the loss of a loved one, the loss of a parent, the loss of a grandparent. These are things, depending on when they happen in your life and depending on how you cope with those situations and how the caregivers around you put those losses into perspective, it can really impact your entire life and well-being. You know, the traumas we experience, I see that Johan popped on here, who's a wonderful osteopath in Monaco. The way that we adapt to trauma or get them treated, like I recommend for people who have physical trauma that you see an osteopath to like help the body release it. You know, when we experience trauma, it gets deposited into our cells, into our tissues, and into our brains. And so if we don't process the traumatic things that happen to us in life, and again, it doesn't even have to be big trauma. This can just be somebody teasing you on the playground, or a coach or a teacher ridiculing you in front of everyone. Those traumas impact us, and definitely in the reptilian brain, that lower part of our brain that starts to record these shocks, and it imprints upon us in a way that determines how we look at ourselves. Like, do we consider ourselves to be strong fighters, or do we look at ourselves as being these weak victims? Do we carry that label of victim going forward in life, or do we just brush it off and recognize that, okay, these things happen to everyone? So I think as you get into this book, Life After Trauma, that's coming out in November, these authors are going to show you incredible, incredible resilience traits that, I keep saying it, if it's available to one of us, that means the potential is there within all of us. And it's I don't know, it's become part of my life's mission to help inspire and empower people to tap into your innate code for vitality, your innate ability to recover from trauma, from illness, from infections, from breakdowns, burnouts, and even heartbreak. Like, we can recover. And not only recover as survivors, I don't even like that term sometimes, but we're meant to go on and thrive in life. We are meant for great, great things. So I hope this is making sense. You guys have gone quiet on me. Good morning, Sunitra. I'm glad that you're here. Yeah, I would love to hear from you all as to what you're up to. Is this making sense? Are y'all with me, or am I all alone here? All alone sitting on the floor in Solveig's room. Well, listen, Sol and I are about to go meet with someone to talk about big branding. If you didn't read Sol's work in Time to Rise, she's also in another book that I have called Resilience Through Yoga and Meditation. One of the things that we're doing with Solveig, who she's got this big, big, big heart and this big, big, big vision that is really about helping people tap into love. Thank you, Sarah, for showing the link to Joanna Suarez' interview, where Joanna, at such a young and tender age, recognized that love is the answer. And Solveig, her whole message is about one love. And so what Sol and I are doing is working together to bring her brand message to the world. She's one of our real self-love leaders, and today we're really exploring how she's stepping up and out as a public speaker. She's been doing tons of media and work here in Iceland, and now we're bringing her to the global stage in English, which I love, and really helping people recognize that no matter what you're going through in life, you're going to get beyond it. We can feel like we're trapped. We can feel like that sometimes, even if we're over 30 or over 40 or pushing 50, you may feel like you've missed your opportunity. And that's just not true. It's never too late for you to get back up and to move forward in life, even if it's in a completely new direction in life. And that's what we have the possibility for. And most importantly, when you're starting to realign your life with your core values, with your true nature, that's when things can start to shift and miraculously flow, like even faster than you would have ever expected. And so that is part of what Solveig's mission is. She and her partner Gulli and Rapi here in Iceland, they have joined forces to bring a program called Nature Genetics to the world. If you've read my book, I Love You Me, then you've heard me talk about it. This is some life-changing stuff that I got to experience last year. I was like, holy moly. Oh, thank you, Erin. I'm so glad to know that this is resonating with you. Yes. Thank you. So this is when the key for me about this whole idea of our nature. So I opened this whole talk about what happens when you're a very controlling or perfectionistic person and you make your plans and things don't go according to plan. Does that knock you down? Do you take it as a personal affront from the universe, like life's out to get you? Or do you reevaluate, go within, figure out how you can adapt and flow, get in alignment with the flow and keep moving? Well, it was funny because I had personally been in a whole lot of self-judgment around this trait of perfectionism, because so many people kind of make us feel bad for being perfectionists. And I mean, I don't even really care about the judgment of other people, but my own self-judgment is what was bringing me down the most, feeling like, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, I didn't have enough, degrees and this, that, and the other. Things just needed to be perfect before I would even give myself even a half little pat on the back. But it's interesting because once I realized that perfectionism was bringing me down, I tried to get rid of it. How many of you out there have traits, personal traits, that are so natural to you that you have tried to pray it away, or tried to extinguish these traits and it didn't work? Anybody else out there like that? Well, when I first met Gurli Gudmundsson, who is very well renowned here in Iceland for over 3 decades, nearing 4 decades, he's been doing this very deep form of astrology reading for the royalty and superstars and celebrities here. And he has really cracked the code of nature and how we are really meant to live in alignment with our nature and, yes, even the nature of the planets, the moons, and the stars, and Mother Earth. But what was interesting was when I sat down with him last year and had my session with Nature Genetics, he was just kind of reading my chart based on where I was born and what the moon, stars, and planets were doing at the time. And the thing he said was, he was like, oh, okay, so thank you, Charlotte, for admitting that you've been like me. and you too, Erin. We are our worst critics. Absolutely. And thank you, Karen. So he was reading my chart and he's telling me stuff, based on his system called Nature Genetics. And he was saying, Andrea, you tend to do this, and then, you have this perfectionistic streak. And I was like, no. I'm done. I've done so much work on that. I'm not a perfectionist anymore. And he kind of just looked at me like, you can't get rid of it. He's like, look, it's actually in your chart. So just like the way the elements are, you can't really change the elements from being what they are. He said, these elements have formed part of your personality. It's part of your nature. And so trying to go against it, or to quit it, or to hide it is silly. It's better for you to just be aware of it. You can recognize when it goes too far so that you can pull back before you do burn out or, cause yourself harm and pain. Or you can just recognize that this is part of your nature. And that like set me free on multiple levels. And I've recognized now many times over, looking over my life, I can recognize now just how much my perfectionism actually is a beautiful gift to me. Of course, if I take it to an extreme, that's not a gift. But the way that I work with my clients, like they love my perfectionism because it means that everything is so detail-oriented. Like we're not going to miss very much when I'm working with clients. And it's also been morphed into, it's been sort of transformed into more of what I call an appreciation of beauty and excellence. So I have a high standard for excellence. And while I would love it if everything goes according to plan, I don't get myself so rigidly attached anymore. I'm happy to say now that I have learned so much and practiced a whole lot being flexible, being adaptable, and being tolerant. In short, I've learned to be fat with grace. So, oh, I love what you're saying here, Charlotte. Recovering super controlling perfectionist. But Charlotte says the animals taught her how to balance this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, and Gila, thank you so much for appreciating my perfectionism. You're welcome. And yeah, I gave you a shout out just a little while ago about you being in the books. So happy to have your voice and your story, and maybe even a poem. So grateful that you're willing to break the silence to inspire resilience. And, oh, thank you, Karen. I'm so glad. So glad. See? And this is one of those things that I went through so many years trying to battle and hide parts of my nature and judging myself. And little did I realize that some of these traits are actually beneficial to others. And so maybe there's actually a divine plan and a reason that we have some of these traits. So I just wanted to give you this little update as I'm here in Iceland so that you'd know what I was up to, and so excited about so many of these authors who are feverishly working away on their stories for these new books. Their stories are due next week. So it's kind of like, it's a big time for us. But I thought it was important because as I'm working with Solveig and bringing her message and her as a global luminary brand to the world, it's been inspiring on so many levels, and it's been one of those constant reminders to check back in and really tune into who am I really? Who am I really? That's what this nature genetics system is about. And Soul's message about one love. Who am I really? If at my core, and if at your core, we are connected in love, we are connected by the heart, by the soul, then all of this surface stuff, all of this 3D striving for perfection, striving to fit in, trying to be accepted, all of that means absolutely nothing. But when we connect in, when we go within and connect from the heart and the soul, when we just recognize that some of the traits that we have, whether we've inherited them or they've been shaped by our planetary experience, the traits that we have, our passion that we have, the values that we want to live by, these are what can make our life so full and enriched and worth living. And this is the reminder that working with these beautiful authors and these global luminaries, this is the reminder that when we can really know, love, accept, and then live who we really are, that's when we will feel that sense of peace. That's when you will experience that sense of contentment, that even if everything isn't perfect, you're living your truth. And it always brings me back to this one line from the movie The Matrix, when you've heard me say this before maybe, when Neo went to see the Oracle, right? And everyone's telling him that he's the one. And he goes to the Oracle, and she's like, no, you ain't it. And so he goes on about his life saying, yeah, I didn't think I was the one. She says I'm not the one. And he's on and on his little journey. But then when the moment comes when he recognizes he's the one that's actually going to risk everything to save Morpheus, he realizes he can't not do what he has to do. He's already seen it. He's felt it. He is it. And so when he goes back to the Oracle and he says, okay, what gives? You told me I wasn't the one, and I'm clearly seeing that this is what I was meant to do. And she said, I just told you what you needed to hear. And so I'll leave you with that. Sometimes in this life, we get a download, we get a vision, we are led on one step on our path, and we are not meant to get locked on as if this is only it. It may have been the message, the nudge, the opportunity, the relationship you needed to take you to that next step in your journey, but it may not have ever meant to be for the whole rest of your life on this planet. It may be that you were just getting certain training, certain experiences, so that you could make that next big step. Just something to consider, my friends. So I hope that you will take it in, open your mind, ponder it a little bit, let it swirl around in your heart and in your soul, and be sure to check out the interview link to Joanna Soares. Be sure to stay tuned for these 2 books that I've told you about, Magic and Miracles and Life After Trauma. And also, you will hear this week about a new masterclass series. I love resilience. I love talking about resilience. Can you tell? I love teaching these resilience skills because it's through building up our resilience resources that we can broaden and expand our repertoire of superpowers. Like these abilities that we have to trust our intuition and our insight, our ability to see things, to be visionaries, our ability to manifest miracles, our ability to transform, to create an awakening, to raise the level of consciousness on the planet. These are the superpowers and the abilities that lie within each of us as in a potential form. And so on August 16th, I will be hosting the first masterclass series about how to respond to stress rather than letting stress get you knocked down. We are going to help you learn how to elevate your own energy without, depending on caffeine and energy drinks. It's like I want to help teach you how to balance your energy, recover from stress, recover from burnout, or prevent burnout so that you can amplify your light. You can amplify the voice in your message so that you can be the most effective healer or coach or light worker or whatever it is you are in life, even just as you're doing your sort of mundane job or at home. If we all tap into this innate code for vitality and our innate potential to have these superpowers heightened, then we can transform the world, starting with ourselves and expanding that to our families and to our communities and eventually the world at large. So I hope this is inspiring to you. I hope that you will join me and you will play along as we each look at how we can amplify our light and our gifts. So stay tuned for that because that is our stress and burnout recovery survival series. The master classes begin on August 16th. I'll be doing them live. These are not pre-recorded webinars. I am on there live teaching about how stress affects the brain, the body, our risk for chronic diseases like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's. We're definitely going to talk about depression and anxiety, especially given how many people are over-prescribed prescription drugs and over-diagnosed with these sorts of disorders. The diagnosis of depression and anxiety and even bipolar, it's out of control. And I believe in many cases, it's inappropriate. You'll hear about how our lifestyle and stress impacts our hormones, particularly how our hormonal imbalances can make us look like we've got brain fog, dementia, depression, anxiety, or bipolar. You'll hear from one of our other Real Self-Love leaders who's flying into Iceland today. Maybe she's even landed by now. Dr. Juicy Jill Stalker I'll be sharing a little bit about her hormonal awakening and how your hormones may be the reason. Ooh, someone's here. Guess who you guys get to see? Hello, beautiful, I'm on Facebook. Come and say hi to the land of Facebook Live, darling.
How are you doing?
So I've just been talking about the beautiful Solveig, and here she is, the gorgeous goddess herself. Mwah. So we were just talking about all the good, juicy, wonderful stuff that's coming up.
Oh, I'll have to steal you away for a meeting.
Yes, so I'm saying goodbye anyway, and look at her beautiful children. Oh, hello. And is my child going to come and say hello? Yay! The whole gang. We're here on vacation in Iceland. Oh, I'm so happy.
I was in football practice.
She was in football practice. And now we're leaving. So anyway, I was wrapping up anyway. So glad that you got to see everyone. I'm going to say goodbye. Make sure you tune in for that masterclass series because we'll tackle all of those things. Sending you so much love. Can we send kisses? How do you say much love in Icelandic? Huh?
What did you say?
Ástarkveðjur til ykkar allra. Ástarkveðjur.
Ástarkveðjur.
Kveðjur.
Kveðjur.
Yeah.
Much love from Iceland, everyone. Bye! Okay.